All right, let's set the scene and dive into France in the 1920s. Picture this. The world's just come out of the devastating grip of World War I. France is in recovery mode, but not exactly in the way we might hope. The scars of war are still fresh, the economy's still trying to find its footing, and yet there's this underlying buzz of progress. Welcome to France in the Roaring Twenties. Now, let's start with the economy. It's a mess, but it's also slowly crawling toward recovery. France is saddled with war reparations and reconstruction costs, making it tough to balance things out. But despite all the economic instability and high inflation, the 1920s still sees some growth. France has to import raw materials and manufactured goods, especially from the US and Great Britain. But the exports? Oh, those are iconic. Think French wine, textiles, luxury goods like perfumes, and of course, the fashion. French haute couture is making waves worldwide, setting the standard for elegance and craftsmanship. But even with those luxury exports, the economic situation wasn't perfect. Rural areas were still struggling, and many people living outside the urban hubs felt like they were stuck in a cycle of hardship. Even so, by the mid to late 1920s, international loans helped stabilize the French franc, and for a while, things started looking a little brighter. It's this mix of struggle and success that defined the decade for France. So, while the economy's on a roller coaster ride, France's innovation game, that's a whole different story. It's a time of major breakthroughs in aviation, automobiles, and cinema. France is leading the way in aviation, with legends like Louis Blériot and Charles Nungesser making historic flights that capture the world's imagination. Over in the automobile industry, Citroën and Renault become household names, representing modernity, speed, and a sense of national pride. And the cinema? Paris is the place to be for filmmakers. Directors like Jean Vigo, René Clair, and Abel Gance are pushing the boundaries of storytelling and film editing. This is when French cinema starts to get its international recognition, with epic films like Napoleon making their mark. It's not just technology either. Scientific advancements in radio, wireless communications, and even medicine and physics are putting France on the map. But let's talk politics, because let me tell you, it's a bit of a mess. The French Third Republic is not exactly stable. There are constant shifts in leadership, and the political scene is as divided as ever. On the left, you have labor reformers and the rise of communism. On the right, nationalist movements are gaining ground, with ideas about military expansion and even monarchy restoration. It's a political tug-of-war that France can't seem to escape. Internationally, France is determined to make sure Germany pays for the war, so the demand for reparations is front and center in their foreign policy. They also build alliances with countries like Poland, creating the Little Entente. But there's tension, both within France and across Europe, as far-right and far-left groups start to clash more violently. These tensions don't just go away, and the 1920s are filled with political unrest and growing extremism. Now, when you think of military life in the 1920s, it's all about recovery and modernization. The French army focuses on rebuilding and updating its forces, but many are still clinging to the strategies and tactics from World War I. The Maginot Line, which is basically this massive defensive fortification along the French-German border, becomes the symbol of France's defensive posture. They're also still getting used to new military technology like tanks and airplanes, which is kind of a challenge for old-school commanders who prefer the traditional ways of war. France's military mindset is stuck in the past, and there's a fear of how new technologies will change warfare, but at least they're trying to adapt. Speaking of change, let's talk about society. The 1920s bring both relief and tension. The war is over, and people are finally starting to breathe again. But the trauma of the war still hangs in the air. France has a whole generation missing, so many men killed or injured, and the imbalance leaves its mark on society. This affects social structures, especially when it comes to women who had entered the workforce during the war. Now, they're being pushed back into more traditional roles, even though they've proven they can do more. Meanwhile, Paris becomes this cultural magnet. drawing in artists, writers, and intellectuals from all over the world. There's this new modern sensibility sweeping through the city, and the Roaring Twenties vibe is alive and well. Jazz, fashion, and a sense of hedonism are taking over, but it's not all champagne and jazz. While the cities thrive, rural areas are still stuck in economic hardship, with little access to education or healthcare. On the healthcare front, there are a lot of positive changes in the 1920s. France is one of the first countries to implement mandatory vaccinations for diseases like smallpox and diphtheria. There's also an increasing focus on the welfare of war veterans, especially mental health care, since so many soldiers come back with psychological scars. The welfare system is in its early stages, but labor laws are starting to improve, particularly when it comes to working hours and conditions. But it's not all progress. When it comes to the makeup of French society, things are still shifting. France is primarily French, but immigration is happening. Italians, Spaniards, Belgians, they're all coming to work in agriculture, construction, and mining. And let's not forget about the North African workers who had served in the French military during the war. The French colonial empire is beginning to face more resistance too, especially in places like North Africa and Indochina. That's a simmering tension that would boil over in the coming decades. As far as culture and arts go, the 1920s in France are nothing short of a revolution. Paris is the center of the art world, and movements like Surrealism, led by André Breton, are all about diving deep into the unconscious. Writers like James Joyce and Ernest Hemingway are frequent visitors, adding to the city's literary reputation. The French film industry is booming, and the country is becoming known for its epic films, with directors like Abel Gance leading the charge. Oh, and jazz? It's taking over. Josephine Baker is a prime example of how jazz music, and the nightlife surrounding it, becomes a major part of the cultural fabric of the time. Now, let's talk about religion, because things are shifting here too. While the Catholic Church is still a major force, secularism is on the rise, especially in cities like Paris. People are questioning their faith more, and movements like spiritualism and astrology are gaining popularity. Secret societies, including the Freemasons, are still around and having a say in the political and cultural landscapes. And let's not forget about the folklore. Despite all the modernity of the 1920s, France's rural areas are still full of legends. Stories of werewolves, saints, and mythical creatures are still told in the countryside. It's almost like the old and the new are trying to coexist, with the past never fully letting go. So, what were the big events? Well, the Treaty of Versailles in 1919 set the stage for everything that came next. France still carries the burden of war reparations, and politically, the decade is filled with tension, but it's also a time of international diplomacy. In 1925, the Locarno Treaties are signed, and relations between France and Germany begin to normalize. Domestically, labor strikes and protests are common as people try to navigate the changing world. Finally, the stereotypes of France in the 1920s. Oh, they're alive and well. The French are seen as cultured, intellectual, and artistic. Parisians are chic and fashionable, but a little bit aloof. The French countryside? That's a whole different story. More traditional and conservative. And of course, France is always associated with romance, elegance, and a flair for the dramatic. So, that's France in the 1920s. It's a mix of old and new, struggle and progress, and a time that set the stage for much of the world-changing moments that came in the decades that followed. Pretty wild, right? Thanks for tuning in to The World as We Know It, and joining me in another chapter of world history. As always, there are more detailed notes in the description, and we welcome any requests or recommendations in the comments section. If you found this video helpful, entertaining, or educational, please consider liking this video and subscribing to support our channel. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next video.